Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Here to talk all things hockey are your hosts, Brad Crisco, Ryan Hanna, and Evan Lobsinger.
I've said this before. If you want anything exciting to happen for the Red Wings, send me on vacation. The moment I'm away, the most exciting news in the last 6 months happens for Detroit. Last November, I was on a cruise and literally in the middle of the ocean when the Fabry trade happened at near midnight. And then yesterday, I was on an island site in the middle of the provincial park near us. Like, it had good signal, but I wasn't really looking at my phone much. I was just using it to check the weather. And in the span of 8 hours, Sam Gagner was re-signed, and then Yzerman acquired that second round pick for Marc Staal. All while I shouldn't even have been looking at my phone. Send me on vacation, and everyone's happy.
I'm surprised you even had reception.
Oh yeah, that provincial park is all completely covered. Algonquin's a different story.
Well, I much prefer this to when the Fabry trade happened because I was awake, bored at home, and able to tweet freely when it happened. When the Fabry trade happened, I woke up because you texted me when I was sleeping. And I'm like, oh, cool. Literally rolled over with one eye open, sent out a quick initial thoughts. I don't even know if at that stage of being awake I could call it thoughts, but sent out a tweet about the Fabry trade and then went to sleep, right back to sleep. This one I could type and respond and everything for hours. It was great. And I only had 2 children crawling over me while attempting to do it.
It's fun to get ahead of them. It is fun to get ahead of them. Although, Brad, can you please walk us through how Evan handled the news? Yeah, from the moment you sent it in our group chat, what Evan responded and what he posted on Twitter.
So apparently Evan was the first one to see it on Twitter because he retweeted it. Didn't post it in our messenger.
Ever doubt my retweet skills.
Did not post it in our messenger chat. I got lucky that I happened to log on 5 minutes after the trade. So I think it might have been Evan's retweet that I saw it. I'm like, okay, cool. So I post it in the chat and then I go in our group chat. I go back to Twitter to, start tweeting about this. Top post on my feed is Evan commenting on a Golf Channel documentary, which Evan doesn't comment on anything, but he's commenting on a Golf Channel thing. So I'm just like, Red Wings make a big trade. Evan, ... quote tweet.
We can write a Discord bot that will alert you when I retweet things. Now we just have to teach you how to use Discord.
Yeah, I know how to use Discord, and I know how to see retweets. I'd spend more time on Twitter directly than on Discord. So it really doesn't save me any time there.
And to provide context to my tweet that is more important than a Marc Staal trade to Detroit, that video is about a guy from Elmira who was an unreal hockey player and basically is also an unreal golfer and now refs in the NHL and qualified for the U.S. Open.
Garrett Rank?
All while, going through cancer and losing his dad. So I thought that was far more important than...
It's an amazing story, but you could have tweeted about that anytime. The Marc Staal trade was fresh.
I'd already moved on.
The kicker for me is when Evan brags about having already retweeted it 7 minutes later. And it's like, Evan, do you know 2 people who would also want to know?
I'm sorry. I thought you guys would be in the know. I'm sorry. I was working with 2 able-bodied human beings.
I have children.
Not.
I, at best, have access to 2 of my limbs at any given moment, and
Perfect.
That's it.
You have 2 children. That's 300% more productivity you should have on Twitter.
Buddy, you have the opposite.
Get them a phone that only has Twitter and get them to work.
And this continuation of Evan's brand, as I was driving home from camping, I was like, I don't trust that anything's not going to happen while I'm driving. So I said, message me if anything crazy, or just call me if anything crazy happens. Evan goes, I got a new skateboard. And I was like, wait, really?
No, I didn't get a new skateboard. I got my first skateboard.
Evan, the grown-ass man, got his first skateboard. Hey, look, if you want a skateboard, go skateboard. I'm just making fun of Evan and only Evan. And then I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, I've always wanted one. And yeah, I went and picked one up from this place. I was like, okay. Started driving. we were planning at the time for the podcast, and Brad's like, "Oh, I can start a bit early." And I was like, "I can too." Evan, how about you? He goes, "Yeah, I can. All I'm doing is icing my ankle."
I skateboarded for 5 minutes today. I literally dummied my ankle, could barely walk, thought I was going to throw up, and went home and iced my ankle on the couch.
You went somewhere where did you go to skateboard? It wasn't like down your driveway?
Did you go to the odd skate park?
No, there's a school right near us that has actual good ground to do it on. Oh, and
not that good.
Yeah, I've never been more aware of my own mortality than the 5 minutes skateboarding today.
Oh, man. Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast, joined by Tony Hawk today. I'm Ryan Hanna.
I'm Hockey Dad.
And I'm Evan.
Hockey Dad is Brad Crisco. For any new listeners we have today, we know might be a lot of people's first time tuning in. I can't promise you that we're any more together than this most episodes, but we do cover everything that's that's happening in the world of the Detroit Red Wings and the NHL. And this is going to be a meaty episode in terms of actual things that have happened. So first and foremost, we will be talking about the trade where Yzerman acquired Marc Staal, but more importantly, a second-round draft pick from the New York Rangers. The extension of Sam Gagner, or the additional contract, the one-year contract that he was signed to. Notes from Yzerman's press conference, media availability, whatever you want to call it, from his looked like living room or office. And then rumors, kind of substantiated rumors about Torrey Krug. And then maybe after all of that, today is actually Lucas Raymond's NHL draft prospect profile. So that is arguably our biggest, or tied for our biggest prospect profile. And he might not even be the biggest story of the episode. So that just goes to show everything that's happened. So, yes. The trade. Who wants to kick us off here?
Marc Staal and a second-round pick to the Detroit Red Wings for future considerations. Now, let's start with what Detroit is sending. Future considerations is often hockey speak for basically nothing. But since you can't actually send nothing in a trade, you have to send either future considerations or a conditional seventh. Whatever it will be inconsequential. What the Red Wings are receiving is a second-round pick and Marc Staal. And more importantly for the Rangers, Marc Staal's $5.7 million cap hit for one more season. I believe it's $3.2 million in actual dollars that the Red Wings will owe him, because his contract only had 4.2 or 4.3 million on it this season, and his $1 million signing bonus has already been paid out by the Rangers. So the Red Wings are on the hook for relatively very little actual dollars. So in terms of the contract they're bringing in, it's not substantial. It's not a lot, relatively speaking, and they got a pretty good asset to bring on such a low actual dollar hit, and the Red Wings have infinity cap space, so 5.7 really doesn't matter to them at this point. So obviously the kicker, the important piece of this deal is the 2021 second round pick. Rangers are looking on the up and up, so odds are it'll be a mid to late second round pick, which is fine. You need as many as you can get. But what is Marc Staal as a player now? Because Red Wings Twitter seemed very confused in my mentions when this trade went down. So how do we phrase this politely? Marc Staal is not necessarily coming in as an asset. There's a reason the Rangers gave us a second round pick just to take him. According to Dom Loose Chicken's model, I know what I said, he is a near bottom of the league defenseman analytically at this point. He is not good. His best years are way behind him. Is there a possibility of a change of scenery, more important role, resurgence in his career? Well, technically, yeah. Would I be banking on it? No. Is he an upgrade to whatever slappy defenseman he's going to be replacing in the lineup? Probably. Detroit's bottom pair wasn't exactly, top of the league. The Red Wings, Steve Yzerman has basically said he will be playing, and it's not like he's a buyout candidate. Where Marc Staal actually will benefit the Red Wings by playing for them this year whether people want to argue it matters or not, is legitimate experience. He's been around for a long time. He was, at one point, a very good defenseman in the NHL. He's not anymore, but he was. He's been to multiple conference finals. He's been to the Stanley Cup Finals. Let's not forget the New York Rangers were a very good team for most of his tenure with them. And he was a very important part of those teams, especially on like the defense side. So you get him across from a guy like Mo Seider, Dennis Cholowski, Philip Hronek. He can only help them with his knowledge, even if his body isn't able to do the things he wants to do anymore. So while he won't contribute much on ice, he should hopefully contribute a lot in the room. But obviously the fact that he's coming along with a second round pick, it doesn't matter what he does this year. If he is anything above a complete tire fire of a defenseman, that's a bonus, because he is literally being given to the Red Wings to no longer be the Rangers' problem.
Yeah, I saw a lot of hopeful excitement saying Staal really added to the value of the deal for Yzerman. And it's like, you know what? The enthusiasm is good. Good times are hard to come by for Red Wings fans, so it doesn't hurt to be hopeful for that. But like Brad is saying here, set your expectations very low for Marc Staal. I took a look back at his underlying numbers, and I think 2015, 2016 was the last season where he had a positive impact in his own defensive zone in terms of shot suppression. So couple that with what Brad just mentioned, he's not going to be a guy who you can go out there and expect to be setting the world on fire. If he was, he wouldn't come with a second round pick. He's a body on the left side, which is good. So if he can string together some good games or even play remotely solidly with a guy who can use that kind of anchor on the left side, or even if Detroit scratches him or buys him out or trades him immediately, it doesn't really matter because the fruit of this deal is the second round pick. That is the value, and that is the breaking of the ice of Yzerman doing what we've been talking about for a long time now, which is leveraging Detroit's incredible amount of cap space, coupled with the fact that there's a flat cap, added to the fact that owners are broke as shit. So that's the first time Yzerman has done that, and $5.7 million bought him or $5.7 million in cap, that is, not real dollars, bought him a second round pick. In terms of value, where do you guys land on that?
I think the Red Wings did great. I know a lot of people immediately jumped to Patrick Marleau was only making a little bit more, and the Leafs got a first-round pick for him last year. Well, Patrick Marleau was owed more real dollars, and the Leafs were in a bigger bind than the Rangers are. And given that Marc Staal's actual dollars owed was so little relative to his cap hit, it's not a big burden for the team that's getting him to take on. So I think a second-round pick was great value for him. Again, in terms of toxic contracts around the NHL, it wouldn't have been my first choice because there are definitely contracts out there that would yield a bigger return. But the Red Wings are going to have cap space to do it again. Unless they throw a ton of money at Jakob Markstrom or Torrey Krug, they're going to have tons of cap space after Mantha and after Bertuzzi resign to go out and get more. And Max even asked Steve Yzerman in his presser, are you done with deals like this? And Yzerman, being Yzerman, spoke 3 paragraphs to say, yeah, no, we will absolutely entertain doing this again. We would like to do this again. We need more assets. So yeah, bring us your dead, gloomy contracts and we will give these bodies somewhere to go.
Yeah, Yzerman's exact line here that he gave back to Max was, nobody wants to give up picks or prospects, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do to make your team better. And we're trying to, I don't want to say take advantage of that, but find teams that are in a position that need to do that. And again, we're trying to add picks or prospects and at the same time ice a team. What Yzerman is saying there is, look, nobody in the league wants to make these trades. And we've talked about this. We drop all these hypotheticals, but in reality, in a normal world, these trades aren't common. The only reason we're talking about it so much is because there's a perfect storm for this. So Yzerman's acknowledging that and saying, look, teams don't want to do it, but tough shit, you gotta. You're in a tough spot and you have to make moves, and I'm here to do business. He says, I don't want to take advantage of that. He's saying he wants to take advantage of that. So for anybody worried that this is all that is going to come, that might be the case, but it won't be for a lack of trying from Yzerman. His foot is on the gas. I think there's at least one more coming from him if he can help it, and I think it's going to be a big one. I see him targeting a Fleury. I see him targeting a Louis Erickson. I think he's going for a big one.
Well, I'm curious about the Louis Erickson one because Jim Benning has said he's not giving up more picks, which you don't have good enough prospects to get rid of Louis Erickson if you're not willing to do that, if we're just being honest. So, I mean, there's Alex Killorn in Tampa. There's Marc-Andre Fleury in Vegas. There's you can probably pick a couple from St. Louis, and that's just a small fraction of the teams that are going to be looking to shed bad contracts because of whether it's they need to get under the cap, they need to get under their internal cap, or they're eyeing some big free agents and they need to make room for them. So it's going to be out there. The only way Yzerman doesn't take another stab at a bad contract like Marc Staal is if he lands a big fish in free agency. Because the Red Wings
too.
Yeah. Because right now, if we look at the math of this, roughly, the Red Wings have 6 more forward contracts to sign, 2 of which are Anthony Mantha and Tyler Bertuzzi, and they have 3 defensive contracts that they need to sign. And again, this could be anybody. This is just what's going to be relevant towards the cap hit. They have $27 million, $27.2 million in cap space after Marc Staal and Sam Gagner. That does not include Henrik Zetterberg going on LTIR because that doesn't kick in until the season actually begins. So for all intents and purposes, they have $33 million in cap space. What are Mantha and Bertuzzi going to take up on the high end of that? $12 million? Okay. And then you have 7 more roster players that you have to sign, and they have nobody else significant to sign. So you could probably average those out at about $1 million per. Okay. That's 19 million out of your 33. That means Yzerman has roughly $14 million in cap space to go big game hunting on bad contracts or big free agents. We'll talk about the free agents later because I'm sure we all have opposing thoughts on that. But in terms of what Yzerman can do with the cap right now, it's basically anything he wants.
Just a quick note there before I throw to Evan here for his thoughts. LTIR is a pretty complicated thing, and I know it changes based on where a team is and whether they're close to the cap or at the cap, and Detroit's pretty far away. So I would the way I've been doing it is just ignoring Zetterberg for now. I reread the LTIR stuff in the CBA a million times, and it is incredibly difficult. Anyhow.
But the way, from what I'm to understand, if the Red Wings don't get within $6 million of the cap, then it doesn't matter. But if they do, they can activate it. So for all intents and purposes, they have $33 million. And if they choose not to use all of it, so be it.
Evan, your thoughts on a 2nd round pick based on whatever market value is?
Yeah, it's good enough. I don't think New York was in a huge bind to move on from the Marc Staal contract, but it definitely gave them some of the flexibility they needed. My other point was all of this conjecture is based on that the Detroit Red Wings don't have an internal cap.
Yeah, well, it's doesn't seem like it. You don't go out and buy guys that you have to pay millions of dollars to when you don't really.
Well, they could only have 15 of 30 million available, for example.
I don't know. I don't think this is a team signaling that they have an internal cap. It's not really what I see.
The Rangers, they have big restricted free agents they have to sign. Tony DeAngelo and a couple others are due for new contracts, and they do not have a lot of space. So,
oh, he was referencing New York. Yeah,
I was talking about Detroit.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, he was talking about Detroit. Yeah, well. The point very quickly when people talk about the Marleau deal, the thing is, when that deal was made, it was considered a pretty ballsy move from Dubas, which is code for pretty big overpayment. And you're going to be hard-pressed to find a GM who's going to dip their toes in that water again, because Dubas took a lot of heat for that and pretty much had to scramble to try to recover that pick a year later, which he did an excellent job of. But it's a pretty big risk. So adding on to what Brad mentioned, like the details and minutia of that trade at the time in terms of dollars owed and the position the team was in, that was a pretty big swing, and it doesn't happen very often. So I wouldn't try to set that as the bar, no matter who you cheer for, because you're going to be disappointed a lot. Not only that, Jeff Gorton is not, he's a really good GM. He's a really strong GM with a good understanding of the cap. And I don't think he is one to have given away a 1st round pick for that. If they were close to competing for the cup, maybe, but yeah, no. So that trade happened. The Red Wings got a body at left D, whether or not he ever plays or plays well, doesn't matter. The second round pick, and that is a 2021 second round pick. So that's not this upcoming draft. So this year, Detroit has 3 second round draft picks, their own Edmontons and Washingtons. Next year, as of right now, Detroit has 3 second round draft picks, their own Edmontons and New Yorks. So that's what Yzerman has stocked up for the second round for this year and next so far. Other moves that Yzerman made yesterday, obviously the big one was extending Turner Elson. No, I'm kidding. It was the 1-year contract extension for 6-game Red Wings veteran Sam Gagner, which I was pleasantly surprised to see. I'm a big fan of that.
So just because I'm the one who was most anti this trade when it happened, I'll be the one to point it out because I find it hilarious. We live in a reality where the Red Wings are going to get more value out of Sam Gagner than the Edmonton Oilers got out of Andreas Athanasiou.
Yep.
And then you have the 2 second-round picks on top of that, one of which is pick 46 this year because Edmonton, air quotations, missed the playoffs. So not that it was necessarily Athanasiou or the Oilers' fault because, the pandemic happened and his coach horribly misplayed him there. But my God, this went from a trade I didn't love the return on when it happened to appearing to be highway robbery in hindsight. But with Sam Gagner, because that's what's relevant here. He is pretty much the Red Wings' only right shot power play option now, again, and still outside of Filip Hronek, but he's a defenseman, so I don't really think they're in the same category. He's great on the power play. Columbus fans still talk about how they miss him on the power play. He's not going to give you much value at 5-on-5, but he will be an upgrade over literally any of the bottom 6 forwards we paraded out last year. There's a reasonable chance he ends up playing on the second line if the Robbie Fabry to center experiment goes through. The likely second line is Gagner, Fabry, and Zadina. As terrible as an NHL second line as that would be, that's a likely reality and somehow probably still better than last year's. But I mean, it's depth, it's cheap, it's good depth, it's depth that can actually play offense. He's terrible defensively, but he can play offense. So he's the exact opposite of what the rest of our bottom 6 has been for the last, 37 years. So it's a change in the positive direction because, again, I know while the season was still going on, I could not stop repeating how sick I was of seeing the Christopher Ends and Darren Helms and Justin Abdelkaders and Adam Ernies of the world, these players who are fine defensively, but just completely and utterly incapable of producing offense. My 4-year-old daughter who started hockey literally yesterday would produce as much offense as Justin Abdelkader did this year, which is exactly 0. Wow, I got angry there. But anyways, yeah, I'm very, very,
you good, man?
I'm very happy Sam Gagner is coming back. I'm not a big proponent of the Red Wings bringing in free agents over the age of 30. I'm not a big proponent of the Red Wings bringing in many free agents at all. But if they're going to bring one in, he might as well be half decent and cheap. And Sam Gagner checks both those boxes.
Yeah, walking into this offseason, if you asked us who we'd be comfortable with, coming in as a free agent, not getting any assets for bringing them on, Gagner would have been probably on all 3 of our lists. In addition to what Brad mentioned, which is, effective and actual veteran presence and coming in at under $1 million, $850,000 was his deal. So effectively the least amount of cap hit possible. He's just a good guy. Like, he's a fan favorite wherever he goes for good reason. He played 6 games in Detroit. Season ended or was cut short, and he was already doing fundraisers for local Detroit charities regarding food security. Like, I'm not a huge fan of, he's a great guy off the ice, so let's just reward him and give him $1 million, million-year, $10 million contracts. I think Detroit's been burned by that before, but that's not what this is, right? So if you need, Brad will say competent bums, I'll say warm bodies, Yzerman will say guys that can play. All of this to say is basically just a sufficient amount of players on the ice to just go in and not be completely awful. Gagner is absolutely in my mind, a good deal on that front. He's not going to shatter worlds. He's not going to go in and be the best second line center in the league. Hell, he might not even play center for Detroit, but I like it for their depth, and that's the kind of depth that I want for this phase of the rebuild. So yeah, big fan of it, and just all around good guy. Evan is currently reading his stats page.
Yeah, okay, we brought Sam Gagner back. He seems like a good dude. Whatever. Like, wake me up when it's someone else.
Wake me up when Turner Ellison gets extended.
Wake me up when my ankle's not swollen.
You guys know it's September, right? The joke was right there, and neither of you took it.
I won't do it.
I will not do that either.
No.
And this is why you guys...
I know on guitar, actually.
Anyways, here's Wonderwall. Moving on.
Okay. So, other news from that Yzerman media availability confirmed, this won't come as a big surprise, that Jonathan Ericsson and Trevor Daley are not going to be offered contracts, and thus their period or their era with the Red Wings are over. So that's 13 seasons. Daley is Daley. Like, we kind of figured that would happen even when he signed his contract, but he had a meteoric drop off. Like, oh my God, that guy fell off a cliff. That was some of the worst hockey I've seen played for the last while there. Season or two. Jonathan Ericsson, 13 seasons, started in was he in the 08 Cup run or 09 where he started?
I think he was around for the 08, but I'm pretty sure he was just a black ace for that run.
He played 8 games in 07, and then he played 1 game in 08. Wait, that's a lie. Evan can't read. He played 19 in 08.
He did come in. He did the Darren Helm thing where he played more playoffs than anything else earlier on.
Yes, he played 22 playoff games. Actually, had 4 goals, 4 assists.
Yeah, he was paired with Nicholas Lidstrom, which is why we were all so hyped for him at the beginning. Anyhow, my feelings have been clear on Jonathan Ericsson for a long time. I'm not going to rip on this guy as his time with the Red Wings are winding down. Altogether a smart hockey mind, apparently, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him offered a position with the team in some capacity. But that's the end of that era. Not a surprise. He's like one of the last, not the last vestige. We have 2 big ones with Abdelkader and Nielsen, but he is a big hallmark of like the Ken Holland type signings that would continue to be made regardless of how the player played. So
one thing I want to talk about with Jonathan Ericsson is the dude played his entire career with the Red Wings. He was the last overall pick in his draft. He turned that into a lengthy career, and whether or not you can say he was a good NHLer, if you get an NHLer out of the last overall pick in a draft, it's a successful pick. And Jonathan Ericsson was nothing but a good dude and loyal to the Red Wings his entire career. So if you were one of those assholes on Twitter today saying, good riddance to bad rubbish, screw this guy, glad to see him go. Listen, we're all happy to never see him play hockey for the Red Wings again, but if you were disparaging the man Jonathan Ericsson, you suck as a person and should stop tweeting, because that dude deserved none of that.
There was so much garbage on Twitter today. It makes it just makes the fan base look bad. Like, this guy, sacrifices bodily well-being to play in the NHL and be a member of the Detroit Red Wings, whether he had a Hall of Fame career or just a cup of coffee. Like, you should still always thank someone for, sacrificing their well-being for your team that you support from your couch. Like, the amount of garbage that I read today was sad.
Like, the dude had bad hips for basically most of his career. It's amazing he could skate. Not well, but he could skate, and he could play in the NHL. The dude gave it his all. Again, I will reiterate, I am very happy to never see him play hockey for the Red Wings again. But yeah, I'm hoping he sticks around in the organization. He's a smart, friendly dude. He would be good in an NHL front office, and it sucks his body betrayed him. And he couldn't at least be an average NHL defenseman. And it's not his fault that Ken Holland gave him that awful contract. It's the same thing we've been preaching for years with Abdelkader. Yeah, that contract might be the worst in the entire NHL. It's not his fault. What, if you're a player and you suck, but your GM comes and says, yeah, $30 million, take it or leave it. Of course you're going to take it. So separate the player from the contract, separate the person from the player. People lose this way too often.
Just wait till Abdelkader is retired or no longer coming back. Like, it's going to be even worse. And like, I don't like Justin Abdelkader as a Detroit Red Wing. I wish he wasn't on the team. We'd probably be better. But I will still say, thank you for all the sacrifices you made in the years that we, had a good team.
It does a lot. Like, these people do a lot of work for the community too. Like, Abdelkader does so much for the community, for Michigan as a whole. And it's like, that's the tough thing about sports is like, you just wish people do a little bit better of separating the shit, just like the absolutely atrocious contract. If I'm like, if Ken Holland knocked on my door right now and said, Ryan, I'll give you $6 million a year for 7 years as a free agent, and you've never stepped on the ice in the NHL, of course I'd say yes. And I'd go out there and I'd piss off every Edmonton Oilers fan in the world. But I would not say no. You don't say no to that money. These guys were offered contracts that they shouldn't have been offered. They took it because what are they there to do besides maximize their career earnings and win? But let's be real. Everyone's trying to maximize their career earnings. They got it. They got those contracts. It's not their fault that they had great agents and Ken Holland was bad at negotiating UFA contracts, and here we are. So, yeah, be happy that they're not on the team anymore, but let's just not, I don't know. It's silly to take it personal as a message here.
What do you mean? I take everything personal on the internet. I have a justice in this world to end these people's online abilities to comment stupid things.
Evan, you talked about them, putting their bodies on the line. I don't think they are. They can be compared to what you did, though.
Listen, they have never had their ankle this big in their life. They don't know what it's like.
Any other notes from this Yzerman presser? He talked about trying Fabry out at center, which is news, but it's not. Everyone's going to be tried out at that center spot. It's just the reality of there is no good second line center for Detroit. So unless they get one, everyone's going to be filling in there. Is Fabry better as a wing? Yeah, absolutely. Are they going to need to use him as a center? Yeah, probably. Just the way it shakes out.
Yep. Same with Sam Gagner. Same with Valtteri Filppula. Same with Michael Rasmussen.
Yeah. We'll probably get a little bit of that this year.
Yeah.
The old revolving door.
Yeah. Rasmussen loaned to the same team that Marco Rossi is playing with right now.
Cool. Hope he does well.
Okay. More Red Wings news. Torrey Krug. Boston's apparently shopping Torrey Krug's rights as a UFA. So it's not Torrey Krug completely. It's the rights to negotiate with him before unrestricted free agency. So if you haven't seen those deals before, they're usually a lot more limited. So you're going to see something weird like a 3rd and a 6th round pick for Torrey Krug, and you're going to go, what? But that's without a contract. It's literally for the honor of speaking to him 2 months before everyone else.
How many times are people going to have to correct that online when it happens?
Oh, a lot.
Infinity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Ryan said 3rd round pick. I don't even think it'll cost that much, honestly, unless there gets to be a bidding war. So I'll just go and say it. I don't like it. I don't like the idea of signing Torrey Krug to begin with. I don't like the idea of giving up any pick to negotiate to possibly sign Torrey Krug. Now, let me preface this. If Torrey Krug is willing to come here on a relatively short-term deal, let's say 3 to 5 years, I'm very for this move. Because then you're locking him into his age 33 to 34 to 35 years. I like Torrey Krug enough to think he'll hold up that long. As an undersized defenseman in the NHL, I'm not super sold he'll hold up that long, but I think it's a reasonable gamble. If I'm Torrey Krug, am I going to even entertain the idea of a short-term deal? Absolutely not. This is the last big contract of his career. He's out of his mind if he takes anything less than 5 years, or I'll even say 5 years or less. Because I'll be like, no, man, this is my last contract. Take me to 37 and then let me sail off into the sunset with all the money in the world that I can. Also, if I'm Torrey Krug and there's multiple teams offering me big money contracts, I'm not going to the Red Wings. I don't care that he's from Michigan. There's what were some of the other teams rumored to be in on this? Vegas, Florida, whoever, teams that, you know, could actually compete for multiple Stanley Cups under his contract. Yeah, that also seems like a better option for me. So if I can get very similar money from a better team in a better position, and depending on the team in a better weather region, I'd be very inclined to do that. Detroit is still a destination for free agents when they're good. They're not going to be that in the next couple of years. So I get why people are excited about Krug. I honestly, as much as I say I'm against this move, if I see Torrey Krug walking out in a Red Wings jersey, part of me is going to get real giddy. But I don't see the reality where the Red Wings turn it around quick enough to get value out of whatever contract Torrey Krug signs, even if it's only, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a lot like the Markstrom thing for me, where it's like, Brad, I think fundamentally everything you just said was correct. Like, if you break this down into like a moves on paper, yeah, Detroit has a window where they can reasonably start competing, and that's not soon. Unless a lot of things shake out for them, like we travel backwards in time and they win the draft lottery, and we travel forwards in time when we win the Shane Wright draft lottery, and, just a lot of that kind of business. That's not the luck that the Red Wings have had lately. That's not the luck that the Red Wings have had over the past 5 years. So I don't count on that window being accelerated. So yeah, how do you turn that into value? But let's double back to what I said last episode, which is that I'm tired of banking on things going right, and I'm tired of waiting for the perfect time to get all these good players. This might just be boiling down to Yzerman saying, look, I know it's not likely, but when do you have an opportunity to sign a Torrey Krug in free agency? When do you have an opportunity to sign a Jacob Markstrom in free agency? You don't. It's not very often. He's like, I'm going to take my crack at it. I'm not going to not add a good player just because it's not perfect timing right now. Maybe we don't get good value out of him. We work it out later. He's like, maybe Yzerman's thing in his head is, I'll pay him more so I don't have to give him a no move clause. So if it's definitely not going to work out for us, we can still move Torrey Krug for value. That could be it. The Red Wings don't want to be a 17-win team ever again. We talked about that before. We've talked about that plenty of times. It's okay to be the worst team in the league while you're rebuilding because it maximizes your chances of winning the draft lottery. You cannot be as bad as Detroit was last season. Plain and simple. It is awful for the team. It shakes them to their core. They won't, and I as a fan, as much as I'm looking, I'm future thinking, and I'm thinking about wanting the Red Wings to be competitive in a sustainable way where year after year after year, like the Tampa Bay Lightning are right now, competing for the cup. Of course I want that to happen. But like you said, Brad, I'm not going to be sad about seeing Torrey Krug in a Red Wings jersey. You have a chance to sign the hometown kid who's the premier UFA. You got to do it. You got to try to make those moves. All that said, I think this is we're going to take a crack at it. I think it's extremely unlikely. I don't think Krug comes here.
Sorry, go ahead, Evan.
I have a better idea. How about we pass on Torrey Krug and wait 2 years when we have a better outlook at what the team's going to be, and we sign someone like Hampus Lindholm, who will be a UFA, or someone like Seth Jones, or hey, another Michigan person, Zach Werenski. Or if we want to go back to the Boston pool, hey, there's a Charlie McAvoy available as well.
So that's the thing too that I agreed with most of what you said, Ryan, except for one thing where you said it's not every summer you get a chance to sign a guy like Torrey Krug. It is every summer you get a chance to sign a guy like Torrey Krug.
You guys.
It is. There's always free agents. Now, obviously, to varying degrees, like this summer, particularly rare, where you have Alex Pietrangelo and Torrey Krug on the market. And not necessarily will you get a guy of Torrey Krug's skill level next summer or the summer after or whatever, but there's always options available there. Whether they're bigger, better, cheaper, doesn't matter. There's options.
Names that, yeah, sorry, finish your thought.
Yeah. So it would be nice. And what this basically comes down to me is, what would you say is the Red Wings' absolute best case scenario for a turnaround. 2 more lean years, and then all of a sudden they like all the prospects hit and they get real good, and then they're in like their young Chicago contender window. Are you really betting on Torrey Krug at 33 years old to be worth the likely $7 million he's going to be making? That I wouldn't bet on that. I really, really wouldn't. If I was a team that was like one piece away from the cup, okay, yeah, I don't think Torrey Krug's going to be worth $7 million, but he's going to improve our team. So we have to bite that bullet, and that's fine. Like for a team like Vegas, that makes a ton of sense. For a team like Detroit, it just doesn't. It really, really doesn't. I just can't bring my head around it.
So if you need to get really, like you really need to sign someone in the next couple of years, like next year's UFA class isn't ultra great. Dougie Hamilton is the first one that pops up to me. Obviously would be an excellent addition.
Yeah.
Brendan Smith's available. I've heard he's a good puck moving offensive defenseman. If we really need to,
I've heard that as well.
If we need to be more defensive, there's a Patrick Nemeth available as well. If we need a big shot blocker, there's Chris Russell. Next year's not looking super great by a quick one over of UFA defensemen, but the Red Wings have nothing but time right now, so the iron's not hot. You may as well. Yes, having Torrey Krug would be awesome, and obviously the team gets instantly better. But seeing who's available 2 years down the road when we have a better vision of what this team is and if they will one day be a contender, I think obviously Steve Yzerman's aware of this.
Well, the thing that is a little confusing to me about this from the timing perspective is I know it wasn't the main part of the trade, but you look at the left side of the Red Wings defense now. DeKeyser, Nemeth, Staal, Cholowski. One of them's already not going to be playing. I mean, and it's probably going to be Cholowski, which I vehemently disagree with. But, I mean, that's the reality of it, whatever. You bring in another left shot defenseman, unless you're planning on buying out Staal or flipping a lefty to the right side, which then probably knocks Seider out of the lineup. Like, I mean, again, if you were a good team, yeah, you always acquire better players, even if it means knocking a good player out of the lineup. The Red Wings don't have any good players, so we're knocking mediocre players out of the lineup, but mediocre players are top 4 defensemen for us right now. So, I mean, we need to get, like, Seider and Cholowski and these guys ice time. Bringing in Staal and Krug in, like, a few-day stretch is confusing at the very least for me, because that is now going from the bare minimum of defensemen to now a surplus that I'm not sure how they would handle. Unless they just say screw it and buy out Staal. Hey, Mark, thanks for your tenure. Go sign with a contender.
I think it's a combination of two things. I think it's one, what you said, Brad, where it's like you always take an opportunity to grab a good player, and if he bumps out a good another player, then that's kind of just how it works out. You never pass up an opportunity to improve. And two, I think Yzerman's saying, we don't even know when we're playing hockey next. I'll deal with it when I deal with it. I'm just going to do my thing right now. I don't know that he had, like, I don't know that he's going into this with a rigid thought. I think he's taking opportunities as he sees them. All of this is also to say that it's an actual true fact that that Detroit is going to be, you know, a big suitor for Krug. One, I don't know how much the hometown advantage weights for Krug, because Detroit's not a competitive team and won't be anytime soon. And two, are people just saying this because Krug is from the area? Like, if he wasn't, would there be, I mean, that's a stupid question, but is there anything substantiating this other than people just drawing the geographical connection? Or are people just automatically doing that?
Well, of course, Red Wings fans want Torrey Krug. He's a good player and he's a hometown boy. I absolutely get the appeal. And like, if you were just the casual fan and you saw, oh my God, one of the, you know, top defensemen on a good team wants to sign in our shitty little team, hell yeah, sign me up. And like, I mean, nobody should look as deep into the math and the contracts and the term and the ages we do. But, and I think a lot of this is fan driven. But yeah, I mean, when it's almost like sometimes the prophecy is self-fulfilling, right? You know what I mean? So if you say it loud enough and often enough, maybe it gets to the right ear of the right person. He's like, hey, yeah. Mm-hmm. But again, just for perspective, the Red Wings have a ton of cap space and they can do whatever they want with it. But if you're putting me like up against a wall and you say you're spending $6.5 million for the next 5 years, you can have either Torrey Krug or Jakob Markstrom. Who's it going to be? I'm picking Markstrom. Like, a position where the Red Wings have a bigger hole. I mean, I have more faith in a large goalie to play well into his mid-30s than a small defenseman to play well into his mid-30s. So, I mean, if the Red Wings are even going to go big game hunting in free agency, which I don't think they should do, but if they do, Krug isn't even the guy I'm picking. Mind
you, 5+ years for a goalie right now for Detroit is... That goalie's life, it'll feel like 10 years.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He'll age exponentially fast.
Yeah, we've all seen
from Interstellar.
Yeah, we've all seen the memes of Barack Obama when he started his presidency to the end. Markstrom would be that times 5.
Yeah, we need Berniers before and after. It'd be like Benjamin Button.
Jimmy Howard actually filmed the aged Captain America from Avengers Endgame. That was just Jimmy Howard with no makeup.
If Jakob Markstrom played 5 years for this iteration of the Red Wings, at the end of it, if you put a picture of him directly next to Bernie Sanders, you would not be able to tell the difference.
Hey, you keep saying Jakob Markstrom, and a couple of people have pointed out to me that it's Jacob. Are you certain it's Jakob?
Nope, but I remember that's what it was back in the World Juniors, and that's how I've been pronouncing it ever since, and nobody's corrected me. Because this isn't true, but this is just what I do. If it's a European... and I see a J, I just assume it's a soft J until someone corrects me. Because statistically, I'm right most often that way, but eventually it's not going to be.
If you had name controversy on your bingo card, you may cross that one off.
There we go.
All right,
hey, it's not a Finnish name this time, though, so we're evolving.
Well, I don't know if I'd call it evolving.
Not the right way, but...
I'm going to move us along to the draft here. Before we start the prospect profile, just a quick note about there was some media availabilities for the top prospects, and they just kind of gave their thoughts and some tidbits about their interviews with teams because obviously there's no actual combine this year. So there's the thing that went around a while back about Perfetti on his like 3rd or 4th interview with the Red Wings, and everyone was like, it's definitely Perfetti. And I think it was either Brad or Evan, you guys pointed out, well, probably every top prospect's having 3 or 4 interviews with the Red Wings, which was confirmed. So yeah, Perfetti mentioned that the interviews with the Red Wings are mostly just Draper and his team asking the questions with the knowledge that Yzerman was in the call. He was on the call, but just muted and not really participating too much. Just like listening and taking notes, which can you imagine how intimidating that would be? Knowing Steve Yzerman's listening to the call and just evaluating you silently. And that's normal. Like that's not anything to write home about. I'd imagine how a lot of these would go. That's how a lot of these would go. Marco Rossi, and this might have just been like a figure of speech, but he says he also expectedly talked to the Red Wings a few times and said his talks with Yzerman directly were good. Like he said, my conversations with Yzerman were good. So is there a difference there? Is Yzerman actually speaking directly to Rossi? Is he intrigued by Marco Rossi? And that's especially interesting because over this past weekend, we've seen Detroit linked more heavily to Perfetti and Raymond than anyone else. And I'm like, has Rossi been kind of knocked out of the mix, including Drysdale? And there's Rossi saying, oh no, I've talked to Yzerman directly.
Well, a few things here first. And we've mentioned this before, but it bears repeating now. We saw zero connection between the Red Wings and Mo Seider till the day of the draft last year. So I don't believe for a second that anything concrete has leaked from the Red Wings front office. Yeah, I believe they like Perfetti. Yeah, I believe they like Raymond. But I mean, they're picking 4th overall in a very deep draft. Of course, they're going to like these players. And I'm sure when their scouts are talking to people in the building and they go, hey, Cole Perfetti on the ice, they're like, oh yeah, that kid's great. People run with that, right? 2, I mean, Yzerman is still a human being. He's going to have moods. He's going to have strategies. He's not going to go into every interview with the exact same approach. If he really truly has been talking to Jim Devellano and Chris Osgood and has been in constant communication with Saginaw about Cole Perfetti, like we have assumed he has been, well, yeah, then he doesn't need to take the lead on the Cole Perfetti interview. He's probably already got most of what he needs to know. Whereas with Marco Rossi, there's probably been less information there. So Yzerman's a little more on we need to get more information about this kid because we're operating with less of a spreadsheet on him than we are Perfetti and, anybody else where they have connections. And
I need to let Pierre Dorian know that we've interviewed Jamie Drysdale 7 times.
Yes.
Today.
So and the third possibility is these kids could just out and out be lying or over exaggerating because they've been told to. Maybe the Yzerman said, don't say anything about the interviews, and Perfetti said, didn't say anything, and maybe Rossi missed that message, or maybe Yzerman forgot to tell him. I don't know. There's a million reasons why people say the dumb shit that they do. Like, look at all the crap we've spewed over the last 5 years. There's no reason behind it. It's just air whistling through our heads and then somehow forming noise in our mouth. I mean, they're kids. These are literal kids. I don't read too much into it. So, I mean, Cole Perfetti, I'm not convinced is eligible for this draft. Dude looks like he's 12. So,
in fairness, so do you, and you have 2 kids.
I know, I'm just saying. But I don't read too much into that because there are so many variables that we don't and can't know.
The message here is that it's fun to speculate about not anything worthwhile. So let's get to something worthwhile, which is probably Brad's favorite prospect profile that we are going to do. Swedish winger, one of the top ranked prospects in the NHL draft, and a favorite for a lot of Red Wings fans at 4th overall. Left winger out of Frölunda in the SHL, Lucas Raymond.
Lucas Raymond. Arguably the type of player the Red Wings need more than any other in this draft. An all-around offensive dynamo who can score goals and create plays. He's an excellent playmaker. Probably when it comes to edge work and agility, the best skater in this draft. North-south, not even close, but he's at least above average in that respects. Terrific hockey IQ. Fantastic shot. I mean, you don't want to take small sample size and recency bias into a decision this big, but he has had a fantastic preseason in the SHL and played 2 fantastic games to start the SHL season. I think he's got a goal and a primary assist already in 2 games. Apparently he added a lot of weight in the offseason, so you could tell he was taking his training very seriously. Dominated almost every international tournament he's played in, and that's usually as an underager, a double underager, and in some cases a triple underager. The guy is a freak despite being undersized. So what does that mean for the Red Wings? I think that if Lucas Raymond is drafted by the Red Wings, he is their best prospect by a country mile, and it's not particularly close. I would expect within 5 years he is the best player on the Red Wings. He is that special. There is no aspect of the game of hockey I would call him weak. His defensive game is a work in progress and his physical game is a work in progress. But when you're sub 6 feet tall, I think that just comes with the territory. He's not afraid though. He'll play to the middle of the ice. He'll play in traffic. He'll play along the boards and he does it well. He is just so dynamic. That is the word that jumps to me with Lucas Raymond. He makes things happen however they need to happen, whether that's with his skating and his edge work, his shot, his creativity, his playmaking, his zone entries. This guy, it's unfair to call him a jack of all trades because that makes it sound like he's a master of none, but he's a master of a bunch. I love the guy. He steps up in big situations. Hat-trick in the gold medal game of the U18s, including the overtime winner against Yaroslav Askarov to win Sweden that gold medal. He's stepped up in these big games constantly. I mean, there's nothing to not like about this guy's game. He's exciting and skilled.
Raymond, for me, is obviously he's a winger, and that puts him at a disadvantage up against the other 2 premier candidates at that spot, excluding any of the top 3 falling out, which are Perfetti and Rossi, who are both listed as centermen. Raymond is
debatable on Perfetti.
Yeah, Raymond is skilled enough and dangerous enough offensively and incredibly intelligent, and his hockey IQ is so high that he is legitimately projected to be a line driver from the wing. No one is even doing that thing where they say, oh, he's so talented, we'll move him to center and we'll use his skills there. No, he's projected to be a line driver from the wing. That is how talented he is. You want elite talent? Look at his skill with the puck. Look at all the different ways he beats defenders. He can make them look stupid with the puck on a stick, dishing out a pass, like seeing a play that isn't there yet, but reading it in advance. He is the quintessential, when you want high hockey IQ, here's who you look for. Like that, the way he plays the game just screams he sees everything on the ice as it's happening and before it happens. And like Brad said, there's some, like he's almost a little over scouted because people are trying to find flaws in his game, but I really don't think there is a huge one. And the biggest thing that he did at this offseason was get, heavier and faster. He got stronger and faster, which is amazing because, as you said, Brad, his north-south skating, wasn't like phenomenal, but his edge work is so good. And that's what I care most about. I want a guy who can, his first 5 steps are fantastic. I want a guy who can cut and have a low, wide, strong stance while he deploys his incredible puck skills. And he's still got quicker north-south. Lucas Raymond, you think of how good you have to be as a solid winger. You are not playing anything other than wing to compete against the projected centerman in draft rankings. The guy has elite hands. He has elite hockey IQ. He's a phenomenal playmaker. I think his shot has a lot of room to improve, and I can see it improving a lot as well. If the Red Wings take Raymond and he is in the mix for my favorite at 4th overall, I think they have a guy they don't have to be worried about that he won't play center, because I think he's a first line driver, a power play 1 quarterback. That's who you're looking at. And if you swing and a miss on Lucas Raymond, then at least you're shooting for the stars. You're trying to knock it out of the park, and that's what he could be.
I think Raymond plays. I think he's a pretty safe bet because he has enough abrasiveness in his game. Not that that's his thing, but like he doesn't need to play on a top line to be effective. He could play on your second or third line and still be very effective because A, his game's adaptable, and B, he is a line driver. And if you want to look at, again, we're relating this directly to the Red Wings and their 4th overall pick, he has one distinct advantage over the other 4 forwards around him in the draft. When you look at Byfield and Stützle and Perfetti and Rossi, he shoots right. The right side of the Red Wing system is almost literally non-existent. Their top prospect on the right side right now is Sam Gagner. There is nothing there. They all shoot left. Every one of them. It's just an endless sea of left-handed forwards, and you have this Wunder kid who shoots right coming in. I mean, all things being equal, if you consider Perfetti and Raymond to be of equal skill, equal talent, I mean, tiebreaker probably goes to the right shot here. So Sam Gagner has someone to finally offset him on the right side.
Ryan, we already have an elite skating offensive player. His name's Darren Helm.
Oh, my God.
Correct that in the notes.
Did you drink before this episode, Evan?
What's that? Sorry?
Did you drink before this episode?
No.
It's the painkillers.
Yes.
Anyways, keep going with your analysis.
I think one reason why he was so low, because I was looking at a lot of the consolidated draft boards, and a lot of them had him at like 7, 5, 8, blah, blah, blah. And I think that really alludes to his lack of ice time with Frölunda last year. I think they're fairly stacked team, and his points per game was significantly lower than other guys who've gone high in the draft, like Elias Anderson or Kaapo Kakko, for example. But the thing that I really like about someone like him is he already plays in a men's league. And this early glimpse of him this year is showing that he has the ability to already play in a men's league in a bigger role. And I think last year he averaged like less than a minute of power play time a game, which is nothing. Whereas some of these other guys are playing in their OHL junior teams and they're playing the entire game. So I like knowing that he can already excel in a men's league. And he definitely has the potential to be like a third overall pick. I think he just needs to get a little bit bigger and continue to develop. So I would almost be shocked if he's there at 4.
Yeah, that's a great point, Evan, and it's going to lead to this conversation here, which is that it's not popular with a lot of people because a lot of people don't like when rankings change, and there's, people are saying, oh, you're just bandwagoning and there's a lot of recency bias, and like, look, that's all very fair.
I mean, I would rather, evaluate players on their most recent performances. You'd obviously take the body of work into account, but if Lucas Raymond's playing right now and he looks bigger, stronger, faster, already playing in a men's league, that would definitely make me reevaluate where I have him on my list.
Again, if all things being equal, if you had 2 months ago, Cole Perfetti and Lucas Raymond, again, I'm using these two hypothetically because they're both wingers and they're both highly skilled and they play relatively similar games. If you had them at a dead heat, the fact that Lucas Raymond is currently performing at one of the highest levels in the entire world, yeah, that's recency bias, but that's also confirmation in some ways of what you thought of Lucas Raymond. So yeah, that should be your tiebreaker. It shouldn't be the reason you pick him, but it's more information. You now have a wider sample size to evaluate this prospect. And you're going, wow, his sample size got bigger and it's more impressive. There's no negatives to that. That shouldn't dissuade you from picking him because of that. Oh yeah, we can't pick him. He's been too good lately. People will think it's recency bias. No, it's confirmation of what you already thought. And if you didn't think that 2 months ago, you can look at this as an aberration and go, yeah, but we don't think he's going to keep it up. It shouldn't change your mind per se. I mean, it should because he's unreal. But if you were that against him, this small of a sample size won't sway you. But if you were high on him, yeah, it's just confirming what you thought.
Yeah, if you're it's vindication also for Lucas Raymond, I might say, because he's a player obviously who wanted to have a bigger role, and there were scouts who weren't big on him because they didn't have that kind of exposure to him. And there was people who were, banging their fists on the table for him because they saw what was there. And so if he continues to do this, it's vindication for him. It's him saying, yeah, I am the player that some of you who thought I was, and thank you for seeing that. And for the rest of you, screw you. This is what you're missing out on. If you're a Red Wings fan who wants the absolute highest potential from that pick, I really see Lucas Raymond as being a great option for that. Not saying Perfetti can't be, not saying Rossi can't be, but in terms of overall absolute highest ceiling, like everything absolutely goes right in their development, this player pans out to 100% of their ability. I think Lucas Raymond has just the amount of a level of skill that could be game breaking in the NHL. That right shot off the left wall is very, very attractive. Lucas Raymond, potential 4th overall pick for the Red Wings, one of the most likely 4th overall picks for the Red Wings, provided he's there and Ottawa doesn't get too hot to trot on him 3rd overall. So that is a player to look out for. If you have not watched Lucas Raymond's highlights, well, the good thing for you is that he's continuing to make them right now. More on him to come pre-draft, of course, but for now, that is our Raymond profile. Wheeler had a Q&A, and he mentioned that the Red Wings have been linked to both Perfetti and Raymond. So
I would hope so.
And yet Helene St. James keeps trumpeting Drysdale. So who the hell actually knows? We are less than 10 days out, and nobody knows anything, which makes for great content. So I thank Stevie for being so goddamn secretive.
When's the draft again, Ryan?
October 6th.
Okay.
Yeah. My blood pressure, though, very high. Although I don't feel like I have 3 players in my mind who I'd be like thrilled with, and probably 4 more who I'm still also probably thrilled with. Like I can't sit here and say I hate a lot of players, but we're going to get to that. That's a bigger conversation.
Who are your 3? Just say the names.
Perfetti, Rossi, Raymond.
If we're not counting Byfield and Stützle, I'm same with those 3. And then if it's Drysdale or Holtz, I'm less happy, but still happy. And then if it's Askarov, I'm going to be processing that for a few months.
Brad is pulling a Ryan and giving us the full essay. I just said names. Give me the names.
Brad's doing it this time, not me. I'm learning.
I'm here for the content, Evan.
Ryan, you're learning after very long YouTube critiques. I appreciate it, though.
I always do get the novels, eh?
Yes.
I guess the Stanley Cup. Let's talk very quickly here about the Stanley Cup Finals. Almost ended last night.
Yeah, I'm very rattled.
back-to-backs.
I had to stay up that late. Thanks for nothing, Tampa and Dallas.
I only
Corey
did the
Perry
first
ruins everyone's
end of
night.
the first overtime, and that's when I was past
by
my
the
time.
By the way, why is everybody so upset about that back-to-back? They're playing in a bubble with basically nothing else to do. They've been operating under every other day schedule. So if they had given them a 2-day rest between the conference finals and the finals, people would have been pissed there. They're not going to put a cup final game up against Sunday night football. So what else was the NHL going to do there?
Because it makes me think of 2009, Brad, and that makes me sad. Because that was, scientifically, if you look it up, the definition of that was bullshit. And that's as much as I'll say about that. All right. It is, hour 5 of just pure content. Oh, God, I miss Red Wings hockey so much. Guys, we have...
I'll ask you that again when we're 10 games into the season.
Yeah. Every
please do.
time you are starting to go through with withdrawals like I am, just go back and watch the highlights of the Minnesota game and you'll be good for another couple weeks.
That Minnesota game is dead in my mind. Guys, this Thursday, likely Thursday, we're going to have our last prospect profile episode. That will obviously be Perfetti. And then before the draft, we will still have one more episode. That will be Sunday, October 4th. That will be our big NHL draft, 2020 NHL draft preview episode. It will include full analysis. It will include our rankings. It will include possibly some guests. It's going to include maybe second and third round targets. It's going to have everything for you. And then, obviously the draft will be on October 6th and 7th. We will be live streaming. So keep an eye out for the YouTube link. If you don't follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/wingedwheelpod, and then follow our personal accounts as well. They're in the bio. Lots of content to come. We are, full steam ahead here. Okay. Overtime on this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast is brought to you by our Patreon supporters. They're the reason we're able to give you all this content from through, I guess, our own personal bubbles. That's why we're recording remotely. They're the reason why we've been able to continue the show. So thank you all very much. First comment here is from Dylan Krill, who says, "Hey guys, would you consider the following for 2C options for the Wings, and how much term and money would you be comfortable with? Granlund, Haula, and Wenberg if bought out."
Granlund, no. He strikes me as that guy, that average second line player who's going to get way overpaid in free agency despite the pandemic just because of a reputation that he has. And he was a very good player, but he's coming off a very poor season. I would not go north of $5 million longer than 2 or 3 years if he was coming here. And Granlund is obviously going to get a lot more than that. I do like the idea of Erik Haula because injuries have really derailed him since his breakout season in Vegas. I think he'd come relatively short term and relatively cheap, but he has enough upside to fill that role pretty well. Again, if the Red Wings are willing to dive into free agency, which, as I've stated numerous times, I'm not a big fan of them doing. And Wenberg, I don't love it. I wouldn't give him much of term or dollars, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, pretty much, unless it's something that's like a crazy deal. I'm trying to fill that 2C role internally for now, and then I'm worrying more about filling it with a free agent when the team is closer to competing, or when you need someone more viable for premier wingers. Next comment here is from Evan is looking at WAP while recording podcasts.
How did they
says,
know?
Woo, Marc Staal in a second for future considerations. Good shit, Yzerman. Resigning Gagner is good. For the first time in a long time, I'm excited for Red Wings hockey. Draft is on my vacation day, so I'm stoked, and I'm so glad Erickson is finally gone. I remember the days when Andreas Lilia and him would be on the ice, and it would be one of the two of them to take a penalty. The fact that old man Kenny signed him to that big deal is unforgivable. I would have rather have had Brad as our defenseman, and the dude is like 5'2", 160, and he'd be more intimidating than Erickson. Oh shit, Brad, he's coming for you. Brad might not have played defense, but neither did Jonathan. I don't hate him, but I'm glad he's no longer a Red Wing. Enjoy Edmonton. One question, why did Marc's deal go through while he had a no trade clause? Yzerman in the presser said he had one. The clause didn't happen in that deal, or there's something to do with New York that he couldn't elaborate further on. Thanks, WAP gang.
Cap Friendly tweeted out pretty matter-of-factly that there wasn't an out clause in his contract and that he had to waive it to come. And so I'm just assuming Marc Staal waived to go to Detroit presumably because he didn't want to get bought out, or because that's what the Rangers would have likely had to have done, and that he'll probably actually get some playing time in Detroit, which he might not have got anymore in New York. So I'll just assume he waived. I don't think it really matters a ton at this point.
Yeah, it seems like it was like a backroom waive and they didn't want to say it, because I think it was either, you waive it or we buy you out and then you have potentially no team to play for.
Also, Yzerman, when he answers questions that he doesn't want to, like stuff that he finds meaningless, he gives people a lot of words without saying much, and I think that's intentional, and that might be what this is. James Phoenix says, good day, lads. Well, it finally happened. Big E and Trev came off the books to ride off into the sunset, and Corey Perry continues to find new, exciting ways for us to despise him. However, the groundbreaking news is obviously Steve Yzerman working his magic once more to secure a second, courtesy of Marc Staal in his cap dump. And he asked about the new move clause, which we just answered. Also, I like the Gagner re-signing. It's a very team-friendly 1-year deal. And with Staal, if he stays, he'll be another solid veteran presence who's a total pro and can actually contribute both in the locker room and on the ice. The question now is, what do you realistically think will happen to Abdelkader and Nielsen? Those are...
Well, Nielsen's going to play because they don't have many more options at center. Helene St. James, I remember at the beginning of the world ending, she seemed pretty certain he was going to Grand Rapids. I don't know if the Red Wings have the heart or the balls to do that. I mean, Yzerman obviously
would.
Yzerman
left Marty St. Louis off Team Canada.
Yeah. If anybody's going to do it, I mean, that's what I would do. So I think he's just going to be bound for Grand Rapids, and they're going to have to eat the back half of his contract.
Which is like, you don't like the idea of having that much money in the minors, but that conversation's so long ago. That's what I think is the ideal.
You don't like having that much money in the minors, but you don't like having that player in the NHL. So
I lost my spot here. Living for the draft here, so counting down the days. Here's to the next wave of Swedish and German mafia in Hockey Town. Cheers, boys. Terry says, good day, duds. Terry here. Should we tell the Lions that the season started 3 weeks ago? Oh, well, perhaps they sell the team and then Rowan can buy them and relocate them to Quebec. Hey, we won today, man. Anyways, go Pack, go, and sup, Allie. Chris B says, what's up, fellas? What a tough loss for the Lions today. They started off hot as usual, but another classic Patricia meltdown brings us to 0-3. I'm just assuming this holds true. You are wrong, Chris. We won. Stafford won. Who would you rather have right now, Demko or Shesterkin?
Shesterkin, 1,000%.
Just for age, right?
For age, and Demko had that hot run in the playoffs, but Shesterkin had a great season once he started playing.
How old is Shesterkin?
He's not that much younger than Demko, if at all.
Oh, he's 24. Yeah, they're practically the same age.
But
Turcotte or Rossi?
What's that?
Turcotte or Rossi?
Rossi.
Yeah, I'm going Rossi here too.
Yes. Me too.
Yeah, for those who are listening who are wondering what Evan's opinions are, he often just nods. So if he has something different, he'll tell us.
You were trying to get our subscribers up on YouTube. I need to restrict content to YouTube then.
Why? Because more people see your ugly mug?
They'll see me nod, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do a kickflip one day on it's a patron exclusive episode.
Can we just film you trying to skateboard?
Dude, it is embarrassing. As someone who's snowboarded for 22 years, it is embarrassing.
Oh, Evan snowboarding bingo card.
And the funny thing is, when I was at the shop today, the one person working there was like, oh, you'll have no problem. I was like, oh, thank God. I have problems. Lots of them. Lots of them.
Zadina or Holtz?
Zadina.
Me too.
Doc or Brady Tkachuk?
Doc.
I'm going Doc here.
Yeah, me too. Now that I thought about it.
Caulfield or Podkolzin?
Ooh, Caulfield.
Yeah, I just want the goals. Just give me the goals.
I'll say Podkolzin.
Blashill or Patricia?
Death.
That's a Ryan question.
Can
I say Sean McDermott?
Honestly, Jeff Blashill.
Oh,
He's had less to work with than Matt Patricia has. Kyle Sanders says, hi, hello boys. I have some pressing questions that need to be answered. Ugh. Would you rather eat a pound of scabs in one sitting, no chasers, or be blamed for the entirety of the Vietnam War? The latter. My God.
Yeah. Geez.
yeah. I'll take the emotional pain versus the, physical disgust.
Also, I'm noticing a lot of Ohio hating in this podcast, and as an OSU fan, I can't stand for it. I'm formally requesting that you salty-ass Michigan fans quit trying to chirp the far superior Ohio State University. Also, go Eagles. Peace.
Not trying to make a lot of friends among this fan base, are ya?
Look, you know what? There are a lot of lovely listeners who unfortunately have to live in Ohio and unfortunately cheer for Ohio State. Sure, you beat the Wolverines a lot. Sure. We've blown a lot of big games, but it's Ohio State. CNOD says, hey guys, if you haven't discussed this yet, do you think that the big precedent of this trade, or the big point of this trade, is to set the market? I might be blanking, but this is the first real cap dump, and $5 million for 1 year with a second rounder is a pretty good starting point. Yeah, I think a lot of it was like, I think you can use like the Jim Rutherford stuff as an argument to say that set a lot of the market, right? Like, you're not going to go out and get a first like Carolina did for Marlowe when you have Jim Rutherford paying way more than he should for the assets that he's getting, when in reality maybe he shouldn't have paid any assets at all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but at the same time, I think the only reason Yzerman would care about setting the market is if he's like on the phone, hey, Jim Benning, we just got a second round pick for 1 year of a cheaper Marc Staal. If you think we're taking on Louis Erickson's contract without a first round pick, you're high. That would be about the only reason I think he would care.
Goes on to say, also looking at the Rangers, the Trouba contract is going to come back and hurt them bad. What do you think about it? We didn't like that from the start.
We hated that contract from day one. That is going to be a dumpster fire of a deal in like 3 to 4 years. It's already not looking good.
They paid $8 million for basically what Hronek offers this on the table right now. Not saying that as a knock on Hronek, but I'd be surprised if his contract comes up north of $4 million.
Hronek's better.
Yeah, we've had that conversation in the past.
Analytically speaking, too, backs it up that Hronek's better.
Just Your Average Teej says, so a Staal Cider pairing?
Sure.
Yeah, fine. I'd rather see Cider with like someone more offensively minded, but I guess.
Yeah, his options are Nemeth, DeKeyser, and Staal. Like, your offensive dynamo of that group is Danny DeKeyser.
Moving on, Michael Berry says, hey guys, hope all is well. Now that Yzerman declared he's open to the market, when do you think the next salary dump is going to be, and who do you think it will be?
I think we're going to see a lot of them right around the draft because free agency opens up 2 days after. There's no legal tampering window this year, but that's not going to stop teams. So once teams start to get a feel for whether or not, they got a shot at a Taylor Hall or an Alex Pietrangelo or whoever, then they will start panicking because they will need to clear the cap room relatively quickly, or they make the deal and then, they have to make a panic trade after because they're over the cap. So I'm not necessarily thinking we're going to see a ton in the next week. I mean, I hope I'm wrong for the content, but I'm thinking draft week we're going to see a couple more. Whether or not it's Detroit, I don't know, but I think we'll see a couple more.
Jake Nagy says, what's up, guys? Here's a list of the 10 most discussed rumors on Red Wings Twitter. How many of them do you think, not want, but think will actually come true? So yes or no quickly, guys, for these. Wings draft Perfetti 4th overall.
Yes.
Yes.
Wings draft Shakir Mukhamadullin 32nd.
No.
No.
I'll say no just because it's so hard to project that far out. Wings trade a package of seconds or thirds to move up into the late first.
No.
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 Wings draft a goalie in the second.
No. I'm going to qualify that by saying 3rd round.
Yeah, I'll say no. but maybe.
I'll say no, even though I want it to happen with Dawes. Wings sign Markstrom.
I'm still going to say no. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense.
I'll say no as well. There isn't like a total bunch of key indicators that are jumping out saying, yes, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Wings sign Krug.
No.
No.
Wings acquire 2 additional bad contracts.
Half no.
Yeah, I'll say no. They only get 1 more.
That's what I was thinking. 1.
Abdelkader gets sent to Grand Rapids.
Yes.
No.
Oh.
Ew.
Sider on the opening night roster.
Yes.
Yes.
And Larkin getting the C.
Yes.
I just said Abdelkader was staying on the Red Wings.
Get out. Go break your other ankle.
Jethro E says, Gluten Tag, sirs. This week I finally finished season mode in NHL 20 and won the cup with the Wings. Won the President's Trophy. Larks was the Hart winner. Phillip filled enough nets to win the Calder, and Nemeth won Conn Smythe. Yikes. All I had to do was trade for Lehner and Merzlikins to make it happen. Come on, Stevie, get on those phones and get those deals done. It's sad that winning a video game Stanley Cup feels like the best thing that happened in Michigan sports in the last 4 or 5 years. Liz B says it's happened. Finally, Jonathan Erickson is no longer on the team. Thank you, sweet baby Jeebus. If he had been kept around and paid as a guy who's mostly in the AHL and gets brought up when injuries happen, I wouldn't have had any problem with him being here so long. Once had a nightmare that Detroit had to play Game 7 in a Stanley Cup final against Pittsburgh in 2009. They lost, and the only goal they scored was done so by Erickson. Thankfully, it was only a nightmare since the playoffs just stopped being played that year once Detroit beat Chicago. I had the same nightmare, Liz.
Honest question, because I've blanked that out. Did Erickson actually score the 1 that night?
Yeah, he did, right?
I don't remember. I've literally tried to block that game from my memory. I don't know who scored that goal for Detroit.
Hit the crossbar. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Fuck. What a dark night.
La Plata Peak says, I believe is a new patron. Welcome. And thank you for supporting the show. Says, my dream scenario is that New Jersey falls in love with Raymond or Rossi and offers to move up to number 4 in exchange for picks 7, 18, and 20, with the Wings also giving up pick 32. Are you all good with this scenario? And if so, do you believe the Wings would be best suited with whoever's left over? Holtz, Perfetti, Lundell, etc. from the top skaters available? Or would they be best suited taking Askarov at number 7, knowing they have picks 18 and 20 in reserve?
7, 18, and 22.
7, 18, and 20.
For 4 and 32. I'm going to say no, just because I don't have enough confidence in 18 and 20 turning into like impact players. Whereas I know at pick 4 that should be an impact player. There will be impact players available at 4. At 7, I'm not sure, because if I would guess that pick would be Holtz or Askarov or Sanderson. Yeah. If you could guarantee me one of Drysdale, Rossi, Raymond, or Perfetti would fall to 7, I would do it. But there's no way to guarantee that, so I don't know.
They would, right?
No. So let's say the 4th is Perfetti, 5's Raymond, 6 is... Oh, yeah, Ross. Yeah, you're right. So maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You'd have to get a little lucky.
No, wait. Perfetti.
Top
Raymond.
3 is top 3.
Yeah, you're right. That would be. Okay, my math sucks, so I might actually do that then. You know what? I would do that. I would do that, because I think Drysdale would go, so I think we would get one of Perfetti, Raymond, or Rossi there. I really do.
Yeah.
Sanderson might even go too.
Honestly, Ottawa's been linked to him, so maybe. Yeah, I would make that trade.
Evan's bingo card says, I've noticed I've been getting a lot of use lately, so Ryan must be up to his usual tricks. All I can say is I hope Evan has been getting good deals on all the bingo dabbers he's been going through. Now that Stevie has acquired his first bad contract, and seeing the asset he received for it, does it temper expectations going forward on potential returns for more? I don't quite know the Rangers cap situation, but it seems like offloading more than $5 million in cap room could have got the Red Wings first. Thanks for the pod, as always. Yeah, we chatted about it before. You have to consider actual dollars. You have to consider the situation New York's in.
I think it sets the market for, they should get a first, because Marc Staal, as far as bad contracts out there to offload, his was probably the best. So if you're taking on a worse contract than that, the asking price is now higher than a second. So, I mean, I think Yzerman did good there, and I think it set a good precedent if he wants to make another one. Because if he takes on another similar contract, great, another second-round pick. But if he takes on any multi-year contract, like with 2 years left on it, like Louis Erickson, I know we keep going back to that one, that's a first. That there's no debate. That's a first. Plus, probably.
The towering behemoth Leviathan says, is there any chance the Red Wings can loan Staal to the Lions to improve their D? Feels like a win-win, really, and maybe it can get done for a pick in the 2021 NFL draft. Joking aside, how would you want to pair the D pairings now with what we got? Staal with Cholowski as a third pair would probably work well for Cholowski. Maybe let him and Lindstrom alternate on the third with Staal. I think people are being really ambitious about Staal. I'm not expecting anything from him.
I think people are being ambitious about Lindstrom, but if I were building the pairings, it would be Hronek to
yourself, huh?
Yeah, it would be Hronek to Kaiser, Seider, Nemeth, Cholowski, Staal, and then Bieger Bowie is the seventh guy. That would be my ideal. Once Danny DeKaiser gets hurt, like he always does, then you move Cholowski back to the left, and then you promote Bieger Bowie onto a regular rotation.
Darren Helm Stan Club says, hey guys, been a while. In Yzerman's presser, there was no talk about the C. Looks like Helm still has a chance. This year's team looks to be a combination of prospects and overpaid vets. Good for at least 20 wins, right? Excited to see the draft day content, all aboard the Raymond train. Anyways, Ryan, we all know the reason the Big Ten were dragging their feet was because the team up north didn't want to continue the streak. Go Bucks, OH, at least college football will fill the void until the next NHL season. Number 43 forever. Why are you guys taking so many Michigan pot shots at me today? What, just because my Lions won for once, you had to find another wound to stab into? Jerks. I wish Evan cared more about other sports so you guys could pick on him. You guys should be the skateboard and Evan should be Evan's ankle.
That would hurt a lot.
Mo Money, Mo Pick says, hey boys, new to Patreon and happy to join the team. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for supporting the show. For all of the new patrons, we really, really, really appreciate you guys. Keep up the great work. Really excited to see the flurry of moves shortly after the Cup Finals done. I was really happy to take on Staal for 1 year and nab a second in the process. Tampa seems to be a team in true cap hell, and Friedman mentioned them as a target for an offer sheet. Do you think Stevie tries to make a trade with Tampa, and if he can't, do you think he throws an offer sheet at a guy like Sergachev? 22 years old, looks seriously good this postseason.
I mean, Stevie traded for Sergachev, so I know he likes him, but again, offer sheets are so rich. And the picks the Red Wings would be giving up are going to be a premium. So I will repeat over and over and over again, until the Red Wings are a contender, I do not like the idea of them offer sheeting anyone, because I don't want Tampa picking first overall because we got a little antsy.
A good time to do it would be when you think the next season you'll be well outside the top 10, which is not Detroit. If that needs to be clarified.
Year or two from now. 2 years from now.
Right after we sign Seth Jones and Zach Rowinski.
There's very few players in this league worth offer sheeting, period, even if you're a good team. Because, again, once you get up to the premium players, you're giving up like 4 first-round picks or like 2 plus a second. It's generally not a good way to do business. You'd be better off just making a straight-up trade for these players because you'd probably get them cheaper.
They need to change the offer sheet rules. Like Zach Werenski needs to change his name because it trips up too many people. Thoughts on Cholowski now without a spot? Yeah, like we mentioned, there's going to be a lot that has to shake out between now and then, and it seems like he might be the odd man out. But I wouldn't be surprised. Like I don't think Yzerman lets him base down there for too much longer. Quaz says, so that second boat I got, the engine block is cracked. Damn, this means the engine is dead and I need to replace it. Ooh, I feel like we're guilty on that one. This is basically worst case scenario, but fortunately I considered this when I bought it. Even replacing the engine, I can still remain in the black, which is profit. Oh, yeah, screw you, man.
Remember, boats are an acronym for bring on another 1,000.
Evan Pardo says, what term in AAV is ideal yet realistic for Krug? somewhat worried we overpay for a 30-year-old defenseman. So a hypothetical Red Wings contract in my mind would be 5 times. You won't get him for this, but 5 times 7.5.
I think 7.5 is reasonable. I think he'll take that or less, but that's a lot, and I wouldn't personally sign that if I were the GM. But yeah, that's about best case realistic scenario if they were dead set on signing him. My best case scenario is they still don't sign him, but that's okay.
Sign him to like 4 by 8 with no move clause or anything, and then just trade him. TJ Nasty says, "Hey Duds, a report came out today that Krug might be moved tomorrow. 4 teams on the list: Wings, Avalanche, Knights, and Panthers. Of those, who do you think he goes to?" We already talked about whether it's worth it to trade for his rights, and his contract stuff. Thanks for the content, guys. So of those 4, who's the most likely to get Krug?
Vegas.
I'll go Avalanche here.
They would be my next pick.
Maybe Florida, but they would need to somehow do a little bit of wizardry.
Hassam Al-Qassem says, reading the Brad and Steve Dangle exchange on Twitter about Krug has me thinking Krug wants to get paid plus term. What would a realistic sign and trade deal look like if Detroit does acquire Krug to do a sign and trade? Ooh.
Sign and trade. Well, the only reason that would make... Like, are you talking about with Boston? They sign him and then we trade for him to get the 8th year? Because that's awful, but if Detroit acquires his rights and then signs him, retains, and then trades, I mean, so we'd be retaining part of a salary for friggin' 5, 6, or 7 years. That would have to be a really goddamn big return because you're screwing your cap for a long-ass time. I mean,
don't know how an immediate trade would work. I don't know why Krug
like,
would do
if you're retaining $2 million for 6 years, like, I'm not asking for anything less than a first plus. That is a long ass time to have a cap hit for literally nothing. So yeah, no, I'm asking massive return on that from whatever team I'm trading him to.
Another former junior goalie turned golfer says, golf season is wrapping up soon here in Chicago, and with the U.S. being in literal flames and also metaphorically, I'm ruling out playing any men's league hockey. Have indoor restrictions loosened up in time for the fall-winter season, beer league in Ontario, or is it like life here in Chicago where life exists in my apartment, the golf course, and the local grocery store?
Well, my senior A season just got canceled, so that was officially scrapped, which sucks.
No fish fry this year, Ryan.
Yeah,
You go to meet the players.
No Brad jersey signed, Milverton 4-wheel drives.
Yeah. No, I wasn't upset about it. Thanks, guys. My beer league's still running with all the home dressing regulations and limited roster sizes. So there's something at least. But yeah, with the weird regulations around it. So it's something.
Side question for Evan. What's it like using the dumb Imperial system on the golf course but metric for everything else?
I think I would be lost if I used metric on the golf course. If someone said the pin was 63 meters away at this point, I'd be so confused. I'd have no idea how far away that is.
Close range, like if I'm putting, I prefer feet. But in terms of how far something went, I think I'd prefer meters. I don't know.
I'm so used to yards. Like, yards is just universal across the golf world.
Datsuk's Priest says, hey fellas, new Patreon subscriber here. Love what you guys do. Well, welcome, and thank you for all you've given in terms of content and for supporting the show. Helene St. James keeps arguing that Drysdale's the best pick, which I don't agree with. Seems like she's overvaluing him simply because there aren't a lot of good defensemen in this draft. With that being said, if Drysdale was in the 2021 draft, where do you think he would rank among the defensemen?
Third or fourth. I'm really high on Clark and Lambos and Power and Edvinson even. There'd be a reality where I could see Drysdale being the 5th off the board, but obviously there's a whole year to determine that. So I'll say conservatively 3 to 5. He'd be one of the 3rd to 5th defensemen off the board.
Yeah, and I think you're right in saying that a lot of that's coming because there's not a lot of good defensemen in this draft. Red Wings fans and people who cover the Red Wings have seen this team be abysmal on defense for a long time, so they're just always trying to itch to solve that right away. And I'm not saying Drysdale would necessarily be the wrong pick, but I think there is a lot of overvaluation of him going on for that reason.
And the defense in this draft is so thin. There are actually Red Wings fans arguing for Jake Sanderson at number 4, if you need to know how crazy this has gotten with the overvaluation of defense.
And I don't even think Jake Sanderson would be a terrible pick from like pick 6 and later. I just don't think, based on who's there, Jake Sanderson is the right guy. If this was a weaker draft year, I could absolutely see Jake Sanderson going top 5. Or like in my mind should, but regardless. Obi-Wan Kenobi says, well, we got our veteran left shot defenseman, so everyone can shut up about Torrey Krug. Also, if we draft Shakir Mukhamadullin at 32 or anywhere else in the first 3 rounds, I'm throwing myself off a cliff.
5 points in 11 games in the KHL so far. Everybody get on board.
Joseph Fournier says, hey there, fellas. Word is New Jersey is willing to trade their 18th or 20th overall pick for a young defensive prospect. Would Cholowski fit? If not, is there a trade that makes sense? Also, please put to rest the Mantha Bertuzzi departure rumors. Lots of bad takes / clickbait out there, especially now. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere. Those are bad opinions. I don't think New Jersey would take Cholowski for 18th. He's still a project and he's older. They might as well take a project defenseman who's younger with those picks. I mean, I like Cholowski and I still think he's got a good future, but if New Jersey offered us 18 for him, I'm jumping on it in a heartbeat.
Yeah. They're not going anywhere. And looking forward to the end of the playoffs, then we'll see who Yzerman covets on Tampa Bay. Stay fresh, cheese bags. And last Patreon comment here is from lifelong Corey Perry fan, Finger Guns Brad. Says, good day, Duds. What a wonderful clutch as heck overtime victory it was yesterday by my beloved Pointy D's. I'm sure everyone was stoked to see my boy Corey Perry get the game winner to force game 6 and begin the inevitable slide and choke again by the no Yzerman team. Look, I know this is a hockey podcast, but how about those Lions? Absolutely never in doubt today as they did the thing, and then Matt Prater also did the thing to kill the Redbirds. Gotta be honest, the Wings should sign him exclusively for shootouts. Anyway, I've never been so sure of a 14-2 season, but here we are. Let's heckin' go. Jersey time. It's a special crossover episode where you get to mash up a corresponding city's NFL or MLB uniform with a hockey jersey. What team are you doing and how are you applying the colors? Examples: Rangers and Jets, Leafs and Raptors, Blues and Cardinals. When you constantly carry Honolulu Blue hope around every season, store it in a Stay Fresh cheese bag to ensure the haters do not sully it. Stay Fresh cheese bags bring our fourth quarter, come from behind game-winning drives and field goals into Fournier Company.
So wait, we have to take the template of a hockey jersey and apply a non-hockey jersey to it? Because there's an NFL team whose uniforms I absolutely would love to see in hockey, but there's not an NHL team in that city.
You have to, there has to be the same city, and you can just cross over aspects of their jerseys. So color, like apply like Detroit Lions colors to the Red Wings.
What's the closest NHL team to San Francisco? San Jose?
I have bad California.
I saw this
geography
on Instagram a few days ago.
I'm going to just say San Jose, so I'm taking the San Francisco 49ers red and gold, and I'm giving them a red jersey with gold accents.
It is San Jose. Yeah, they're 42 miles away from San Jose.
That's my pick, because San Francisco's color scheme is elite, and I would love to see it on a hockey jersey.
I'm trying to think. I really like the Chargers jerseys, but they obviously are. Well,
the Kings, they're Los Angeles now.
Yeah, the LA Chargers.
Jacksonville Jaguar.
What team are you doing there? Florida?
Oh, is it geography? No, I like
yeah, they have to have the team in the same
Jacksonville
city.
Would be Tampa Bay.
LA with the Kings with the Chargers colors, just because it would be not black and white. I think that'd be fun. The Eagles wouldn't look good in anything but green. That's tough. Who else is there? The Washington football team. The Washington Capitals with the Washington football team colors would be dope.
Oh, that would be so dope.
I would love, those Florida, I think it was the Florida Marlins did those like 80s Miami Vice. Like
that was the Heat, the Miami Heat. Yeah.
Those.
In
Marlins
Florida on the Panthers. Oh my God. Yes. That is the correct answer to this question.
Okay. Time for a couple of Reddit questions here. Holy moly, what a goalie, says, I have only one thing to say. This is the top ranked comment, so I'm reading it. He says, peanut. That is all. Please continue with your mindless rambles. Yarvik 7, very quickly. Bring these guys back or not? Yes or no? Bowie.
Yeah, you need depth.
No. Ernie.
No.
I'm on no right now. Pralini.
No.
Nah.
Is this the question? Resign?
Yeah, bring them back or not?
Yes.
Timashov.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. N.
And
yes, you need depth.
Turgeon.
It doesn't matter. Also, sure, for Grand Rapids.
Grand Rapids. Hirose also for Grand Rapids.
I still think Hirose could be a contributor on the third line.
Yep.
Kylewood. Is it Kylewood?
Kylewood? Yeah, Grand Rapids needs depth.
And then, oh yeah, there it is. That's it. Okay. Evan, pick a number between
5.
1 and 4. 1 and
5.
4. Okay, then that defaults back to 1. Han Solo Mail says, why is no one pointing out the fact that 75% of Rossi's points have come versus bottom feeder teams?
Because there were a lot of bottom feeder teams in the Eastern Conference and the OHL, so he really didn't have that many games against top teams.
It's worth noting when you talk about him like breaking records and things like that, but it's also not a bad sign that he does dominate against those teams. You do have to take it into consideration, because if you're going purely by his points, then yeah, the guy's a top 3 pick, and it's not really a question. So I don't know. It's not a game breaker for me, but it's definitely something to take into consideration. All right. We are going to wrap this one up. We will be back with you guys midweek. Wednesday.
We forgot to mention the giveaway.
Oh, shoot. We'll announce the Zadina card giveaway.
Yeah, and the one that we're going to be posting with this episode, the other one.
You tell him, Brad.
So we've got, again, we gave away the Zadina card with the last episode, and we'll be announcing that winner on the midweek episode. But we also have a bunch of sealed hockey card boxes. So with this episode, we got a box of 2019-20 Upper Deck credentials. So I've already opened it, filmed it. It's going to be posted on YouTube. So someone will be winning the entire contents of that box, which retails for, I can't remember, $100 and something. So huge prize. Yeah, it was fun. It brought back some memories. I felt weird. It was good. And someone's going to get very lucky.
Blink twice if there's a really good card. Brad's video is so pixelated.
It went so grainy. I was like, I can't tell he blinked.
All right. Well, that just adds to the mystery.
We're going to wrap up this episode. Thank you all for listening. For all of our new listeners, welcome. And I think I'm sorry. For all of our Patreon supporters, we love you. Our name level sponsors, Terry, Arjun Shankar, Greach, Jeremiah Dobo, Jake Kiefer. Evan is looking at WAP while recording a podcast. Andrew Bohan, Scott Martin, Jacob Turner, Matt McKay, Craig Kibble, Brandon M, Matthew M. Rice, Luke Johnson, Kalen Wood, Hassam Al-Qassem, Charlie Elkins, Hana Lee, another former junior goalie turned golfer. I believe that's what it is. Yeah. Obirwan Kenobi, Trevor Pevavar, Evan's bingo card.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to check out wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find links to other ways to support the show, such as Patreon, official podcast apparel, and more. And don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Winged Wheel Pod. And of course, the hosts at Brad Crisco, at Ryan Hanna WWP, and at Hockey Town Evan.